All right, let's dive in. Today, we're gonna take a look at online food delivery,
Okay.
specifically Zomato Ltd.
Interesting.
Um, you guys sent over a ton of data and articles on them,
Right.
and
Yeah,
honestly, just looking at it all, I have so many questions.
absolutely. There's a lot to unpack.
And to help us make sense of it all, we've got our expert here
Hello.
who can break down all these numbers. But first, just looking at this screener data, I mean, Zomato is huge E.
Yeah, they're massive.
23 countries,
Mm.
over 130,000 restaurants, and something like 11 million orders every month.
That's a crazy amount of food.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I knew online food delivery was popular, but
It's exploding, isn't it?
this is next level.
It really is. And I
Okay.
think what's really fascinating is Zomato's growth is like a perfect example of what we're seeing around the world. It's not just about convenience anymore, just ordering a pizza from your couch.
Right.
It's like a whole shift in how we think about food.
Yeah.
I mean, look at DoorDash here in the US, Deliveroo in Europe.
Yeah.
It's a global phenomenon.
So Zomato's not just playing in the Indian market then.
No, they're competing on a global scale.
Okay, so we've got massive scale, global trends. But wait,
Right.
Zomato isn't just delivering meals anymore, are they?
No, they're not.
Looking at screeners here.
Yeah.
And they've got table reservations, loyalty programs. What is this? Are they trying to be the ultimate food app?
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Like the one-stop shop for everything?
Exactly. From takeout to date night.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a really smart strategy if you think about it.
Yeah.
They want to capture more of what you spend on food.
Yeah?
Make themselves the go-to app for everything edible.
That's a good point.
And this is a big but.
Okay.
The competition they're up against is fierce.
Oh, yeah.
You've got Open Table for reservations,
All right.
credit cards with dining rewards.
Yeah.
Zomato needs to offer something truly unique.
Yeah. So they're ambitious, but is it actually working? Let's talk money.
Okay, let's do it.
The screener gives us some pretty big numbers here. A market cap of over euros, 2,028,243 CR.
Wow.
That's a
lot of crores.
lot of zeros.
Yeah.
But then they've got a teeny tiny dividend yield
Yeah.
and a price to book ratio that's like
Sky high.
through the roof.
Yeah.
Plus, they're practically debt-free.
Interesting.
So what's the story here? Is this the
Yeah.
golden goose or what?
Well, let's break it down.
Okay.
So, starting with that huge market cap, that's a clear sign that investors are pretty confident in Zomato's future.
Right.
They see the growth, the global trends we talked about,
Okay.
and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
So they believe Zomato's only going to get bigger.
Exactly.
Okay. What about that tiny dividend yield?
Well, actually, in this case, it might not be a bad thing.
Oh,
Zomato's clearly focused on growth right now.
right.
They're putting their profits back into expanding the business
Okay.
instead of paying out dividends to shareholders.
So it's like a long game. Interesting. Now, what about that crazy high price to book ratio?
That's where things get a little more interesting. Basically, it means investors are valuing Zomato way above the actual worth of its assets on paper.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge vote of confidence, but it's also a risky bet.
Risky how?
If Zomato stumbles,
Yeah.
that stock price could plummet.
Oh, I see. Okay. And what about them being debt-free?
That's actually a good question.
Yeah.
On the surface, it seems like a good thing, right? Being financially responsible.
Yeah, of course.
But in such a competitive environment, it might be a sign that they're being a bit too cautious.
Oh, how so?
Well, their rivals might be using debt strategically
Okay.
to fuel their growth, grab market share,
Right.
while Zomato plays it safe.
Interesting.
It's a trade-off, and only time will tell what strategy wins out.
Okay, so we've got ambitious expansion, big bets from investors, but Screener also gives us these automated pros and cons.
Oh, yeah. The algorithms stick.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what to make of them.
Okay, what do they say?
Strong quarter expectations, but a low return on equity.
Interesting.
Plus, their earnings are getting a boost from other income.
Hmm.
It's like a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's definitely a mix.
Help me understand this.
Okay, so those strong quarter expectations, they're probably based on analyst predictions.
Oh,
Looking at market trends, Zomato's recent performance,
got it.
basically the market thinks they're going to earn a lot of money.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But the low return on equity, that's not so good, all right?
Well, it's not a great sign.
Okay.
It could mean they're not making as much profit as they could from their investments.
So their cost might be too high.
Exactly, or their profit margins might be too low.
Okay,
It's something to watch closely because it could affect their long-term sustainability.
got it. And what about that other income boost?
That's the real head-scratcher.
Yeah.
We need to dig deeper and see where it's coming from.
Like, what could it be?
It could be smart investments, asset sales, who knows? It's good for their bottom line right now.
Right.
But we need to make sure it's not covering up any problems in their core business.
All right, so things are getting interesting. Now, Screener also have these headlines about a CCI probe,
Oh, right, the Competition Commission of India.
some acquisition updates,
Mm-hmm.
even snippets from earnings calls.
Interesting.
Sounds like Zomato's been busy.
Yeah, definitely not just delivering biryani.
No kidding. So what's the deal with this CCI probe?
Well, the CCI is like the market watchdog.
Yeah.
They make sure everyone's playing fair.
Got it.
And this probe is probably because they're concerned about anti-competitive practices.
In the food delivery sector.
Exactly, which is something we're seeing a lot of these days.
Globally.
And Zomato says they're cooperating,
Okay.
but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Definitely. What about these acquisitions?
Yeah.
Are they just gobbling up smaller companies?
It's a common strategy, especially in a fast-growing industry like this.
Right.
Acquisitions are a quick way to expand, grab more market share, enter new regions, even acquire valuable technology and expertise.
So what's Zomato after?
Well, looking at the recent moves,
Yeah.
especially in grocery delivery and logistics,
Right.
it seems like they're aiming to build a whole food ecosystem.
Wow. So not just delivering restaurant meals?
No, they want to be involved in every aspect of food.
That's ambitious.
Very ambitious.
Speaking of acquisitions, Screener mentions that Zomato's stake in one of their acquisitions, Adonmo, I think it was called,
Donmo, yeah.
has dropped to 17%.
Hmm.
Are they backing away from that venture?
It's hard to say for sure without more information.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just freeing up capital for other investments.
Okay.
Or maybe Adonmo isn't performing as well as they hoped.
Makes sense.
We'd need to look at their earnings calls and financial reports to really understand their reasoning.
All right, before we move on, I noticed something interesting in the shareholding data.
Okay, what's that?
The number of Zomato shareholders has been steadily increasing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What does that tell us?
Well, it's usually a good sign.
How so?
A rising shareholder count usually means more and more people believe in the company.
Okay.
They see potential for growth, and they're buying stock,
Got it.
which creates more demand for the stock,
Right.
and that can boost their market position even further.
So it's like a vote of confidence from the public.
Exactly.
One last thing. Screener also mentioned an investment in a company called Bionics.
Bionics, yeah.
What's that all about?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It shows Zomato's strategic thinking.
Okay.
Bionics specializes in logistics and supply chain solutions,
Right.
which is essential for any delivery company.
Makes sense.
So it's not just an investment, it's a strategic partnership.
Got it.
It could give Zomato a real edge in the delivery game.
Interesting. Wow. We've covered a lot.
We have.
I'm starting to get the bigger picture here. But I want to bring it back to the average person,
Right.
like me, just trying to order some food. What does all this high finance stuff mean for the everyday Zomato user?
That's the most important question, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all this data, all these strategies, they affect your experience as a customer.
Okay.
So, for example, Zomato's growth and expansion, that could mean more choices for you,
Okay.
faster delivery times,
Yeah.
maybe even access to new kinds of food.
I like that.
But there are also potential downsides.
Oh, like what?
Well, as Zomato expands and faces more competition, they need to stay profitable,
Right.
which could mean higher delivery fees for you,
Oh, no.
higher menu prices,
Right.
maybe even fewer restaurants to choose from.
If they can't afford to be on the platform.
Exactly.
Okay, so there's a trade-off.
There always is.
And then there's the bigger question, right?
Yeah,
Can they actually keep this up?
right. Can this level of growth be sustained?
Can they deal with the regulations, the competition,
Mm-hmm.
and still deliver that smooth, affordable experience that people expect?
That's the million-dollar question.
That's going to determine if Zomato becomes a permanent part of our lives
Exactly.
or just another fad.
It's a fascinating story to follow.
It really is.
What stood out to you the most so far?
Honestly, it's their ambition.
Yeah.
They're not content with just being a food delivery app.
Right.
They want to be a whole food ecosystem.
Yeah, from farm to table, basically.
That's a bold vision,
It is.
and it could totally change how we think about food in the future.
That's a great point. And it brings up a crucial question. Is Zomato's strategy actually sustainable in the long run?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Will they be able to overcome the challenges and take advantage of the opportunities in this crazy industry? To answer that, we need to take a closer look at some of the key factors that could make or break Zomato's plans. And we'll do that right after this break.
So those factors that could really shape Zomato's future, I think the first one we got to talk about is regulations.
Yeah, regulation.
Governments all over the world, they're starting to pay attention to these big online platforms, and they're not always happy with what they're seeing.
Right. I've been reading about all these concerns. Data privacy, worker rights, the impact on local restaurants even.
Exactly. It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
Regulators, they're trying to find that balance. You know, they want to encourage innovation,
Right.
but they also need to protect everyone involved.
Everyone's got to play by the rule.
Right. And in India specifically, we already mentioned that CCI investigation.
Right, into Zomato and its competitors.
Yeah, they're looking into potential anti-competitive practices.
It seems to be a trend everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Okay.
not just India.
Yeah.
We're seeing similar scrutiny all over the globe.
So what does this mean for Zomato?
Well, new regulations could force them to change how they do business,
Okay.
which could end up costing them more money.
And hurt their profits.
Exactly.
Can you give me an example?
Okay, imagine there are stricter data privacy laws
Okay.
that could limit how Zomato uses your data.
Like my order history, stuff like that?
Exactly. They wouldn't be able to send you those targeted ads anymore.
For my favorite biryani place, yeah.
Exactly. And those ads, that's a big chunk of their revenue.
Wow, so that would really hurt.
It could.
What about all the talk about gig workers?
Right, the delivery drivers.
Yeah, could new regulations there affect Zomato too?
Absolutely.
How so?
If they're forced to classify their drivers as employees.
Instead of independent contractors.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then they'd have to provide benefits, you know, all those employee protections,
Yeah.
which would definitely increase their labor costs.
It's a tricky situation for everyone, isn't it?
Oh, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Policymakers have a tough job.
Trying to be fair to the workers,
Right.
but also making sure companies can still operate.
Exactly.
It's all about finding that balance.
It really is.
Okay, so we've got the regulators, but let's not forget about the competition.
Oh, the competition.
It feels like there's a new food delivery app every day.
It's a crowded market out there.
It really is.
And the competition is fierce.
Yeah.
You got the global giants like Uber Eats, DoorDash. They've got tons of money and really sophisticated technology.
Yeah, it's hard to compete with that.
It is. And then you've got the regional players.
Okay.
They've got those established networks.
Yeah.
And a loyal customer base.
Yeah, so Zomato's really got to fight for every customer.
They do.
So how do they win that fight?
Well, price is definitely a factor.
Especially in a market like India.
Right, where people are very price conscious.
Yeah.
But it's not just about being the cheapest.
Okay.
It's about offering value.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, that could mean faster delivery times.
Okay, I like that.
A wider selection of restaurants, exclusive deals, maybe even a more user-friendly app.
Right, so it has to be a good experience.
Exactly. Zomato has to constantly find ways to stand out.
To be better than the rest.
Exactly.
So they're dealing with regulators, battling competitors.
Yeah.
Trying to keep their costs down.
It's a balancing act.
But what about the most important part?
Oh, the customers.
The customers.
Of course.
What do we want from a food delivery service?
Right. At the end of the day, Zomato's success depends on understanding their users.
And giving them what they want.
Exactly.
So what are people looking for these days?
Well, convenience is still king.
Of course.
People want their food fast.
Yeah.
They want it easy. They want it delivered with a smile, you know?
Yeah. No one wants a grumpy delivery driver.
Exactly.
But beyond convenience, what else is important?
Well, personalization is becoming huge.
Okay.
It's not just about one size fits all anymore.
Right.
People want personalized recommendations.
Oh, tailored to their tastes.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Imagine an app that remembers your favorite cuisines, your dietary restrictions, even how spicy you like your food.
Like a personal food assistant?
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
It would.
What else?
Another big trend is sustainability.
Oh, yeah. That's everywhere these days.
People are thinking more about the environment, and they want their food delivery to be eco-friendly too.
So what could Zomato do?
Well, they could use eco-friendly packaging, carbon-neutral delivery fleets, maybe even partner with restaurants that are committed to sustainability.
That's a good idea.
It's all about aligning with those consumer values.
So Zomato's got to stay on top of all these trends.
They do. They have to constantly adapt and evolve.
It's a fast-paced industry.
It is.
It's tough to predict what's going to happen next.
It really is. The online food delivery industry is still pretty young
Yeah.
and incredibly dynamic.
It's exciting.
It is. There will be winners and losers.
For sure.
And Zomato's future depends on their ability to adapt and innovate.
To keep up with this constantly changing landscape.
Exactly. It's a fascinating story.
It is, but it makes you think, too,
About what?
about the social impact of all this.
Oh, yeah.
We're becoming so reliant on these platforms,
We are.
but what does that mean for everyone else?
Right, for our community.
To the restaurants,
Yeah.
even for our relationship with food itself.
Those are important questions.
Yeah.
As these platforms become more and more integrated into our lives, we need to be mindful of the bigger picture.
Of the consequences.
Exactly. Are they helping local businesses?
Right.
Are they strengthening communities?
Or are they just making everything the same?
Right. And are they creating genuine connections?
Yeah.
Or are they isolating us?
Food for thought, literally.
Yes.
But let's bring it back to Zomato.
Okay.
What's the main takeaway from all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Zomato's not just a company.
Yeah.
It's like a reflection of everything that's happening right now.
In the food world.
Yeah. And in the world in general.
How so?
Well, how we eat.
Oh, yeah.
How we live.
Mm-hmm.
How technology is changing everything.
Okay, I see.
By understanding Zomato's story, their ambitions, their challenges.
Their successes, their failures.
Exactly. We can learn a lot about how businesses operate today.
Yeah, it's not just about looking at the numbers.
No, it's about understanding the bigger picture.
It's about the people, the trends, the impact.
It's about the whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
And for our listeners, I think the key is to stay informed
to keep learning
and to ask those tough questions.
about the companies we use every day.
Exactly, because ultimately, we have the power to shape the future.
Through our choices, our demands.
Exactly.
Wow, I like that.
It's all connected.
It really is.
Hey.
Well said. So before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, I like it.
As we rely more and more on platforms like Zomato, are we losing something valuable?
Like what?
That connection with our food.
Okay.
The joy of finding a hidden gem.
Right.
The feeling of supporting local businesses.
It's a valid concern.
Are we trading those things for convenience?
That's the question.
Or can these platforms actually make those experiences even better? It's something to think about as the food delivery world keeps changing.
Definitely something to chew on. Yeah, it's a question we all have to think about, you know? As these platforms become more and more a part of our lives, what are we giving up?
Yeah, are we trading something real for just being able to tap a button and get food?
Exactly. And is that worth it in the long run? It's a conversation that's not going away, especially as this industry keeps growing.
Definitely a lot to think about, but before we get too deep into all that, let's bring it back to Zomato and kind of sum up what we've learned.
Okay, good idea. Back to the basics.
So we started with their massive scale, right? All
Yeah.
those countries, restaurants, millions of orders every month.
Yeah, they're a prime example of just how big online food delivery has become, not just in India, but globally.
And it's not just about bringing you your dinner anymore.
No, they're branching out, right? Reservations, loyalty programs, groceries, even getting into the logistics side of things.
I'm trying to be the be-all and end-all of food, basically.
It's a bold strategy for sure, but it definitely comes with a lot of hurdles.
Yeah, we talked about the regulators watching them closely, all that competition they face, and how they have to constantly innovate just to stay in the game.
And they have to do all that while still making a profit and dealing with all the ethical questions that come up, you know? Gig workers, data privacy, all of that.
It's a lot for any company to handle.
Definitely not easy. Makes you wonder, will their big bets pay off? Can they really pull off this whole food ecosystem thing? Only time will tell, right?
It's a story we're all watching unfold, whether we're ordering from Zomato ourselves or just interested in how this whole industry is shaking things up.
Exactly. So for our listener out there, what's the one big thing they should take away from all this?
What should they keep in mind when they open that Zomato app? Or just think about food delivery in general.
I think the most important thing is to be an informed consumer.
Not just clicking and ordering without thinking about it.
Right. Think about what's behind that food on your screen. Think about the delivery drivers, how sustainable the restaurants are, how your choices are affecting your community, things like that.
So it's bigger than just getting a quick meal. It's about being part of a whole system.
Exactly. And our decisions matter. They have a ripple effect that goes way beyond just ourselves.
We can actually shape how this industry develops by what we choose to do, what we demand.
Exactly. So next time you're looking at all those delicious dishes on your phone, take a second to think about the bigger picture.
That's a great point to wrap things up on. We've really dug into Zomato, their financials, their strategies, the challenges they're facing, all of it.
Yeah, and we went beyond just the company itself, looking at the whole food delivery scene and what it means for all of us.
Exactly. And most importantly, we've given our listener the information and insights to really understand this complex world and make good choices.
Absolutely. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and happy eating.